This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big show for the week of June 22nd, 2026, alongside my tag team partner, Matt Moscardi. I'm Damian Rawlis. On today's countdown, Domino's Pizza will serve you the same C-suite flavored pizza. It helps to be named Tyson at Tyson Foods. A brief look at 2026 shareholder proposals. A shady pay committee at Costar Group. And on the big vote, Matt looks at 2026 director votes. You know, before we get to the show, it just dawned on me that, you know, the joke we did with the show, you know, I call you my tag team partner and we have proxy cage matches. Now we sort of predicted the future on that one, right? Donald Trump just had a cage match on the lawn of the White House. So we rightfully predicted the merging of corporations and wrestling. I mean, that was sort of inevitable. Okay, well,
that was a marriage made in heaven.
Wanted to pat ourselves on the back. Let's look at our top stories. It had 130 filings since just last week. The headlines: Domino's Pizza CEO Russell Weiner resigning. Of course, he will stay as executive chair. Their executive chair, David Brandon, is stepping down, and then they're hiring internally. COO Joseph H appointed CEO and director. Now, why this is notable is for two reasons. One, like Target, Domino's seems to be struggling, so the internal hire is weird, and as is keeping the former CEO around. But also, it just shows you how much money you can save, I guess, by doing this, because he only gets $3 million golden hello.
Wow.
So
cheap.
Right, but these days, who knows? I mean, we're seeing, as I'll report soon, CFOs getting big golden hellos, so maybe they just wanted to save money and not get someone with good ideas. Right? I don't know.
I like that those are the only two options.
Nike. No, he hasn't been there that long, less than a decade. John Rogers Jr. is resigning. Now, this struck me as notable because I looked at his no votes over the last 3 years at the annual meeting. 35% no in 2025, 40% no in 2024, 35% no in 2023. These are really high votes, consistently high votes. He's only been there for 8 years, and now he's stepping down. I don't know if this is a coincidence. I'd like to hope that he got the message and he's leaving. But yeah.
Why did he get such large no votes? Do we know?
I don't even really know. The only thing I could find was a small, they called it de minimis payments between Nike and the investment firm where he is co-CEO. But, so it was below the threshold that you need to report for an actual related party transaction. That's it. I don't know that would be enough for such high votes because technically not a related party transaction. But I don't know. You can tell how little voting there is against directors when I highlight this as one of our top stories of the week. Maybe it's wishful thinking to me that he's stepping down for this reason.
Doesn't Phil Knight still have, and the family trust still have roughly 20% of the voting power? So
yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. I thought is Nike split into like Class B and Common? I don't know. I don't know how they're split, to be honest.
I'm wondering because if you get 40% no in 2024 and the management,
that's a revolt.
It's basically like minority shareholders do not voted you out, and there is generally a reason, and that reason, we'll get to, is usually pretty obvious. So this is weird.
And then also at Nike, speaking of large golden hellos, so they have a new CFO, David Denton. He's getting up to $15 million in cash, which is unusual. Usually it's equity. I highlighted this because, the golden hellos we're seeing for CFOs is ridiculous. But the other ridiculous thing is the churn, the CFO churn. So David Denton was at Pfizer since 2022. Before that, he spent 4 years at Lowe's. This is how it works now. They just jump ship and get massive golden hellos. I don't know. I find it a little distasteful.
Well, they generally get their options paid, right? Like, like any unvested options, they usually get as part of the package.
They seem to leave right after the first sort of long-term equity package is over. Then they kind of bounce.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
I don't know.
That's perfect timing.
Speaking of dumb money, let's go to our stupid money highlights. Let's start with chair of the board, John H. Tyson. Okay, that's at Tyson Foods.
It's one of the only companies that we cover where the middle initial matters the most.
It does, because John R. Tyson is the convicted criminal, I guess, right?
Yes, the other
former
Tyson,
chief sustainability officer, now back as director for a reason nobody knows.
Exactly.
Listen to this nonsense, and again, you can only figure this out if you just spend way too long looking at filings like I do, because you got to pull out some proxy statements to make all the math on this work. John H. Tyson suddenly gets an amended employment agreement that will last for the next 3 years. His base salary is now at $3.5 million. Okay, that's for being the executive chair at a chicken finger company. But why that's notable is that it's up from $1.2 million. How about that? $1.2 million to $3.5 million. And then his annual bonus target it used to be 170% of that $1.2 million. Now it's 300% of the $3.5 million. I mean, it's just stupid. So he's also getting a one-time incentive award cash payment of $40 million. Okay, that's in cash. You don't see that very often. He's also getting extra use of the company jet because now they're pretending that based on security concerns that the dude who's the chair at a chicken finger company must use the jet for everything. So he gets total use of the jet all year round, and he gets an additional 3 hours. He gets an additional 300 hours of usage of that jet, even when he's not a passenger. So I guess it's for his buddies and his his golf buddies. I don't know. And then he gets a bunch of other stuff that he never used to get. So, wow. I mean, that's a lot.
They control the company. He's already a billionaire.
You're asking why does he need so much cash? Suddenly?
Do you have a new house that you need to buy?
I think it's gambling debts. You think? Yes.
I would love to think that.
So there's that hogwash, and then there's some more hogwash. We're seeing this in this sector, this industry all the time. So JP Morgan Chase continues to shuffle the deck. They promote, they fire, there are new people who might take over for King Jamie. This time it's Doug Petno and Troy Rohrbaugh who are promoted to some made-up jobs. I think co-presidents. They're both co-presidents of something. But more importantly, they're each getting one-time retention and continuity. One-time retention and continuity equity awards. Can it be both? Retention and continuity? So they're both getting $30 million each. At the same time, two other named executive officers are getting $20 million each. I don't know why they're getting that, just because they don't want to piss them off, I guess.
Discontinuity equity awards.
So there's $100 million thrown out at some people for just still doing their jobs.
Their jobs.
Yeah. Then I have some more dumb stuff. How about this one? Something only I would care about. At Cincinnati Financial, they decided they needed a 15th director. 15. This is their 15th director.
Did they expand the board to get the 15th?
And who is it? It's Lisa Franchetti, who has a 40-year career in the Navy.
At Cincinnati Financial?
Yeah, she was in the U.S. Navy for 40 years now. They had to make room for her. Well, that's a favor, right? That's a favor to someone in the community, right? Maybe she's from Cincinnati. What is that?
Look, I like a veteran on a board, but I also don't like expanding a board and adding somebody who has no background in the industry on the board.
At least get rid of somebody. Like get rid of someone who's in the Air Force or something. Like have fun with it. And then I'm going to end with two things that are like kind of smart for this world that we cover. First, AeroVironment appointed William Lynn III as a Class 1 director. Here's the remarkable thing. I definitely have not seen this year. He's a Class 1 director, which means that his term is going to expire at the upcoming meeting in September. So
wow,
right? He's only going to be there for a few months before
he gets voted.
Shareholders actually get to say. I mean, I can't believe that's rare.
Well, that is weird.
And then finally, I just love this one at Revolution Medicines. There's an NEO stepping down. His name is Steve Kelsey. He's gonna retire from his employment with the company effective at the beginning of 2027. And then the company says in the same filing, the company currently contemplates appointing Dr. Kelsey to its board upon his retirement. So I like that. They never tell you that stuff. They're like, we're going to think about it. So, if you find some reasons why you might not like this guy, let us know. But we're going to contemplate this for a while. Even that is incredible disclosure. All right.
That is. That's good.
Let's move over to our proxy cage matches. We didn't really have much going on, so I just wanted to give an update on some kind of end of proxy season data. This is a new report from Georgeson. They're looking at ESG proposals. And actually ESG proposals. They're actually including the G proposals, the governance proposals.
Oh, they added G in. Oh, somebody knows what they're doing. Oh, that's nice.
So for this year, they're down again, down to 710, which is they're looking at the Russell 3000. Down to 710. It was 840 last year and 1,000 in 2024. But it's actually the governance proposals went up. So it's the E&S proposals that are just completely fizzling out. Notably, big jump in proposals for independent board chairs.
Oh, thanks to the anti-woke guy.
Yes, and I'll get to that. And the one that where they're really dropping out, I noticed two pay categories: executive severance pay and clawback related proposals. Those dropped from 45 last year to 8 this year. So I don't know. Is this why pay is going crazy because no one's fighting back against pay anymore? No, probably not. But
I mean, they could just vote against pay, and they don't really do that much. They could vote against the pay members of the committee, and they never do that. So I don't know.
Here's the most disheartening part that you alluded to: the haters. We call them the anti-ESG activists. They're being pretty tricky this year, so they are increasing their amount of governance proposals up to 39 this year from 24 last year, 11 independent chair proposals, only 1 last year. And here's the kicker. And here's what they're going to raise money on. And here's what they're going to pretend is going on, which it's not, is that the average support for all the haters proposals, the anti-ESG activists, is up to 25% this year, up from 5% last year. And that's because they're padding the numbers with these types of proposals that they know that people like.
But they keep
bugs me.
It bugs me too. But the reality is they are putting a legitimate governance problem on the ballot at companies.
I agree.
And what's fascinating about it is the gap between if John Chevedden puts this on a company ballot versus they put it on a company ballot. It's the same proposal. It's the same problem, and they will get less votes than Chevedden will for good reason, because we trust Chevedden and we don't trust, the anti-ESGs and McRitchie. Right. But the reality is, are we actually looking at the merits of any of these proposals in the same way are we looking at the merits of the directors? So, you know what? I say, I don't really care who the proponent is. They can use it for
here's why I
raising their own money later.
we both have spent way too much time like looking at the networks of all these hate groups, right? There's like the National Legal whatever Heritage Foundation, the Boyer Research, all these dopes, right? There's the 1776 Foundation, whatever. There's a bunch of foundations that are championing a part of America when there was still slavery or women couldn't vote, right? So the same people are involved with all these lawsuits, all these battles in red states that are like crapping on ESG and suing ESG and threatening BlackRock, and you can't have it both ways, can you? You can put up a proposal for an independent board chair. I mean, isn't that the bedrock of ESG, that type of thing?
That's the capital G in governance. Yeah.
So I
would
think
say so.
Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to wrap up with the vote results table. Not as a lot of meetings left. 25 meetings last week at large cap companies. No wins. Let's start with shareholder proposals. 2 were close at Autodesk and eBay. Special meeting rights, they're pretty close, up both in the 40s. Other notable proposals at Block. That's the Jack Dorsey company. Dopey Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
They had a proposal. Establish board level technology committee. It got 4% support. Why not though? What's wrong? What's wrong with a board level technology committee?
Because
it could be
Jack
fun.
said no because he's got all the B shares, or the C shares. I don't even know.
And then there's like the constant like disconnect that irritates me. So both Delta Airlines and Dollar Tree both had an act by written consent shareholder proposal. 31% said yes at Delta, 5% said yes at Dollar Tree. But isn't it the same shareholders basically? Isn't it the same?
This is what I mean.
Institutional owners?
I don't know. I don't know how this gets parsed anymore. I don't know who's doing due diligence or if it's done.
Well, okay. I was going to shill our product, but we do that another time. Let's move on. Say on pay. This is what really got me this week. So irritating. Let's start with Costar Group, which I alluded to at the front of the show. 29% of shareholders rejected pay this year. 46% said no last year. This is where it's just like, I don't even know if shareholders or I don't know who's paying attention to any of this stuff. But so the company basically bullshitted their way into changing the pay practices to appease the basically the rejection last year. 46% no is a rejection. And some of the things they did is they sort of like vaguely modified things like the TSR modifier, which we talk about a lot, total shareholder return modifier. Like for instance, if they're at the 25th percentile of the TSR, they still get payouts. If they're at the 50%, they get 100% of their bonus, that kind of thing. Now, this year, all they did was they made that 50th percent. They changed the 50th percentile to the 55th percentile.
So wait, just so we're clear,
help me out with this because I have a hard time describing this. Help me out.
So it was last year if the company is in the bottom quartile of shareholder returns, that the CEO would get
80% of the bonus.
80% of their bonus. So they're the worst quartile. They get 80% of their bonus. They changed it this year. So now if they're in the 30th percentile or worse, you get 80% of your bonus.
Except it's almost worse because it used to be a modifier and this year it's an actual payout because they just sort of like, they jerry-rigged all of the plan to make it look better, right? So
they changed it to the direct payout instead of, they're saying 50% of the payout and 80% of the modifier, but those numbers are probably exactly the same.
Yes, and I'll get to that in a second. We'll get to the numbers in a second, but some of it really tweaked me. Like the last year there was a TSR modifier, the max was 120% of the bonus, but this year the max represents 200% payout of the bonus, and they added something called a super stretch, which is 250% of the payout. So that they're changing it, but yet they're gaming it so that you can earn even more. But look, all that nerdiness aside, because I can go on with this, and it probably doesn't make sense unless you're looking at the table I'm looking at. Here's the end result. Again, 46% of shareholders said no last year, 29% this year after some changes, I guess. Here's the end result for the CEO. His total summary comp this year is $36.4 million. Last year it was $37.4 million.
Oh,
his options,
showed him.
He got 90,000 options last year at an $82 strike price. This year he got $114,000 options, $114,000 at a $78 strike price. So that improved.
Yeah, it got better.
He got 80,000 more restricted stock units worth $6 million more. And his performance shares also increased. He got more equity. They changed the name of all the bonuses and the percentiles, and he got the same pay. I mean, I can never get over utter nonsense.
When you started pulling this maybe 2 years ago in this show.
Makes me crazy.
I can never get over the fact that for whatever reason, in capitalism, in capital markets, when it comes to executive pay, if you perform as well as the Washington Wizards or the Brooklyn Nets, you get,
which is not well, right?
Which is the worst in the league in basketball.
Okay,
you get 80% of your pay. If you perform, if you miss the playoffs, and you are basically the Miami Heat, if you are the middlingest of middling, if you are the Clippers, the LA Clippers, nobody cares about you. You're in the middle of the pack. You get 100% of your pay. The bonus is supposed to be a bonus for doing a good job.
Yes,
the word bonus would suggest that. It's extra. But you get all the extra for doing exactly the middlest job you can do. And now they're changing the language, so it looks like you have to do more to get the same, but you don't.
It fooled 17% of the vote.
It's really...
Right? Which implies that maybe 17% of the vote is, there's a lot of push now to use AI to decide everything, right? And they all promise that, we got all the data, we got it all figured out, it's seamless, and, we don't need analysts, and we'll just do it in my garage, and, but does not this suggest that if they lost 17% of the no vote, right? They convinced 17% of the vote that they're not looking at the policy.
Yeah,
right?
Nobody's reading.
They're not looking at the policy. So it definitely irritates me. Otherwise, INQ, 47% no vote. They had 36% last year. So, and again, I should add that at Costar Group, where this irritating pay package changed, right? I just spent 10 minutes poorly trying to explain. The average vote for the entire board was 98% yes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
They didn't punish anyone. Directors, we had some high votes. Veeva Systems, the co-founder Matthew Wallach got 36% no, and I think it's because of this funniness in the proxy. He was the co-founder, right? He was the co-founder and president of the company between 2007 and 2019. But the company decided that he's independent under New York Stock Exchange listing standards. They said, well, yeah, he's a co-founder. He has not been employed by the company for over 6 years, and he is financially and socially independent from Veeva and current Veeva executives. But guess who else is on the board? The other co-founder and current CEO Peter Gassner, who's been there since... They
never socialized.
Who's been there since 2007. And the chair, Gordon Ritter, has been there since 2008. So, yeah, he's socially independent.
He hates them. He had to sign an affidavit that said, I have not invited them to a barbecue in 6 years.
What? I mean, Jesus.
Socially independent, I think... Because the term, nature of that language, socially independent.
Yeah, what is that? COVID?
As opposed to socially dependent, which would mean I don't
husband's.
go out unless Gus invites me. I don't.
That's a new term. But shareholders picked up on the nonsense, but not enough of them. 36% no. That should have been a 80% no.
The vote predictor model, free float vote predictor model, had him at a 60% probability that he'd get more than 20% against. So they had him at a 74% vote. I don't know why, but that's what the predictor model had him.
Well, you might want to look deeper in the data. Did MSCI correctly mark that he is a former executive or co-founder? I don't know. I mean, they won't tell you he's a former co-founder, will they? Maybe they will. Because that's important for that. Moving on to Vertiv Holdings. Joseph Van. Okay, well this is what's interesting. Joseph Van Dokum, 46% no vote. Now his reason is that he's the chair of the nominating committee and the board has one woman. Do we think that's the reason?
I mean,
is it possible?
It's possible. It seems unlikely in 2026, but
that's what I'm thinking, right?
I'm not saying it's not.
Because a lot of people have pulled back from caring about things like that, right? Like women and people of color. So I don't know. But this next one, we can be assured is we definitely know. At Expedia Group, Alexander Wang. He's the 29-year-old chief AI officer at Meta Platforms. That sounds like a guy I want to be socially independent from, right?
Yeah.
He got 47% no vote because the quote from the proxy, each of our current directors, except for Mr. Wang, attended at least 75% of the meetings. Now, Wang, he's 29. He should have the energy to attend meetings. They only had 4 board meetings, and this guy couldn't show up to. We don't know how many he showed up to. It's a maximum of 2, but again, that board in attendance thing, that's important to people, right?
Let's come back to that.
Yeah, they don't care about the potential, the networking capability of having the Meta platform, head of AI. They just want to know. Did Alex show up and what kind of...
They don't want to know his social independence or dependence.
And then I'll wrap on this. Once again, I don't know if you covered this, but maybe I'll cover this on the crossover show we're going to do with Mike and Ann coming up soon. But once again, a lot of high votes withheld for directors on classified boards. I picked out 6 out of a quarter of the companies I looked at this past week. High votes against directors on classified boards. And then finally we have looking at the meetings coming up next week. I don't know if we're still going to be, we probably won't have a show next week, but
the week after. Yeah.
Yeah. So next week is the Ryan Cohen week, I guess. Both GameStop and Chewy have votes coming up, although Ryan Cohen I think is completely out at Chewy, but the stuff at GameStop is crazy. The story this week is that he has voluntarily decided to take away he had a $35 billion pay deal that was up. It was like an Elon Musk-esque deal for $35 billion, and he says, "Okay, I'll give up on that if you still let me buy eBay. I'm still going to try to buy eBay, but he's voluntarily." Anyway, that's what's going on.
I promise to give up the money I haven't made in order to buy something I want.
This is the problem with letting Elon Musk go nuts, because now it's just like a wild west of stupidity. But anyway, that's all I have. I'll hand it over to Matt, the big vote. What are you looking at?
All right. I'm going to look at director vote discrepancies between 2025 and 2026. So this is a really simple process for me. I went through and I looked at who had the biggest drops in votes for and who had the biggest jumps in vote for in the last year. And I wanted to know why. And
directors only, right?
Directors only. We'll just start with the biggest drop, effectively sudden spike in votes against. The biggest drop in votes for came from Jabil, the company Jabil.
Jabil, yeah.
Jabil, it had 2 directors who are among the largest. It was John Plant. In 2025, we got 39.5% against. In 2026, it was 84% against.
Yeah, I would vote against a man with imagine a personality of the guy named John Plant.
Yeah, well, it would have been worse if it was John Houseplant, but Plant could be anything. He's on the audit committee. The vote predictor actually suggested a 73% for, so there was a strong chance of getting a big vote against, but not
that's
this
a lot.
big.
Yeah. But that's significant.
It's 84% against. You should be gone.
Okay,
right?
well, but that's such an outlier that I don't think the vote predictor can handle cases like that, right?
Yeah, it basically says that happens once a year for
it's like seeing a female CEO at a Fortune 500 company. It's just so mind-blowingly
who's
of an
also
outlier.
happens to be a female leprechaun. That's probably more likely. NV Tiagarajan
Sure.
was 6% against last year.
Oh, it's a man. Got it.
And 69.7% against in 2026.
Oh, wow.
They are nom and pay committees. Both, this is not a classified board. This is not dual class. This is not even plurality voting. They have plurality voting, but only during a contested election. This was not a contested election. So they were forced by company bylaw to submit their resignations. Their resignations were, drum roll, rejected. Quote, in making its determinations, the NCG, the Nomination and Corporate Governance Committee, and the board each considered a number of factors it deemed relevant, including each director's attendance and engagement, overall qualifications, contributions to the board and its standing committees, and whether acceptance of the resignation would be in the best interests of the company and its stockholders.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy they actually look into this stuff.
Well,
Release the report and the data.
This is a straight attendance vote from the proxy itself. Messrs. Plant and Tiagarajan attended less than 75% of the aggregate board and committee meetings on which they each served during the fiscal year 2025 due to coinciding professional responsibilities.
Well, then you don't have time to be on this board then.
Isn't that it? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
They said
Step down.
They said in the 8K, in considering attendance and engagement, the NCG committee and board noted that both Mr. Plant and Mr. Tiagarajan historically maintained strong attendance records prior to the 2025
so it's kind of like if I got arrested for murder, I could just be like, well, I never murdered before this year.
But I didn't do it before this year.
Yeah, so give me a break.
Jabil directors hit 605 on TSR, which is good, but 348 on earnings, which is less good. They had the most. We actually highlighted Jabil as in the top 10 of most overpaying boards from our April 3rd proxy countdown. So this is interesting because their votes were just, you didn't show up. That's the vote. Attendance.
You think that'd be enough to move on? I
mean,
right?
I get that. That's the lowest possible bar you could have. Go to the meetings, right? Can't you just call into a conference call? You couldn't.
Let's not forget. I was gonna say, let's not forget that in a poll of directors, it was like 90% said at least one director on the board should be fired. So here you go.
You might have two here.
Here's your dream come true.
The second biggest was Sanmina Mahili Senkaran. She got 43% against.
Okay.
Again, attendance-based, 1.3% against in 2025.
So these aren't so exciting discrepancies.
She has a 2-year tenure, nom committee, founder-led totalitarian company, and she's staying on the board because it wasn't a majority, so she's staying on the board.
Well, I get that one because at least the company can be like, look, we're not going to bullshit around. We don't care what the shareholders say, right? I mean, I control the vote, right?
But they should at Pediatrics, where John Starcher had 36% against because he also failed attendance.
Wow.
And 1.6% against in 2025. He has a 6-year tenure on the pay committee. Look, I looked at all the biggest drops in support.
Yeah.
All of them. And for the 2026 voting. And the lesson is really, really simple.
Go to the meetings.
Investors still only care about attendance. That's literally the only thing they care about.
Okay, but no, I'm sure look, you couldn't have covered this when you were looking at the data because you can't know the answer to this. But why the huge discrepancy even within the failed attendance? Why does John Starcher get 36% against while John Plant gets 84% against?
Because very clearly that when you look at the investor mixes at these companies, like the investor mixes will determine just the level of caringness about careful
curiosity
of the attendance vote.
Got it.
It's who tracks ISS and Glass Lewis and who doesn't. In fact, you could say probably as a rough proxy, if any director fails attendance at a company and they are voted out, the majority of those investors that own that company stock just listen to Glass Lewis and ISS. That's probably as simple as it is.
I know the geniuses at FreeFlow are starting to work on the idea of adding a proxy kind of, what do you call it? A proxy voting recommendation within the platform. Hey, give them a choice. Say, I don't care if they miss attendance, right? The investor can put it right in there. I don't care.
In fact, the early versions that I've seen is strictly based on performance and independence and things that actually matter beyond did you go to the room? Because right now, these votes are utterly uncorrelated to performance. Directors get votes for showing up to work, not doing the work.
Well, that's the thing, and I wish there could be a push to say, hey, if you reject this vote, give us the report as to why you think that this director is more valuable. Like what? Prove the value of this person beyond like anecdotal evidence.
I just want to live in a world where we are like constantly
held accountable for something.
Like when we went to work at a massive corporation in middle management, imagine if we showed up and sat at our desk all day and expected our full bonus. That is exactly what these directors are doing. Yeah. That's the bar. I should say that's not what they're doing. That's the bar they're held to. The bar they're not
middle management. They're the directors of major corporations.
But I don't understand the disconnect. Like every one of these investors has a job and has middle management. Would you allow an employee at your own company, whether you're an asset manager or a pension fund, to show up and stare at their computer screen 9 to 5, go home and expect to get a check? Right. Is that the standard you hold them to?
Yes,
why do we hold directors to a different standard, a lower standard?
Protected class. What else do you have?
The other notable ones on big drops. I think there's a free float effect here. Adobe's Dan Rosenweig. Do you remember our show? We did a show on Adobe.
I do remember this.
We suggested that you vote against Dan Rosenweig. In fact, what we said was, quote, Rosenweig, because they vote against Rosenweig because they, quote, need change in a new era. Rosenweig is also on the NOM committee with no plan, the succession plan, after 17-year tenure. Yeah. Too close to Narayan,
we hammered them because Adobe does like sort of seem like a dinosaur, and Narayan stepping down, and they don't even have a succession plan.
They don't have a succession plan. They don't know who they're going to choose.
So we hammered on Dan.
And like half the board's been there for 15 plus years. Like you didn't see this coming. Easy vote against. Rosenweig this year went from 7% against in 2025 to 31% in 2026. Well, look, I'm calling that a free float effect.
Look, they can't prove anything with their days, but so we'll take the victory. We'll just say
take
it's because
the victory
of us.
lap on that.
It's because of us.
The second thing that's notable in the particular for the changes here, men might be slightly better off than women. The average vote dealt for men was basically the same year over year. Oh. Your votes are on average roughly the same every single year, which you'd expect given the way investors vote.
Because they're men and they're just the same great man. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're all one man. But the vote dealt for women was actually a slight degradation. There were the 0.2 percentage point
Is that
change.
Okay. Is that significant?
When we talk about 96.3% for versus 96.1%,
Maybe it is. Yeah.
It's a little significant. You're
So
talking
it's-
about such small numbers.
So it's 10 times that of men, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. 10 times
that's-
worse than men.
This seems, it's something.
That's something.
Yeah.
All right, and let's talk biggest improvement, and then we can get out of here.
Okay.
Biggest improvement.
I like that. Yeah.
These are last year they got a lot of votes against, and this year they have not as many.
From failure to stardom.
Netflix,
Oh, yeah, I know who you're going to say.
number one, number one change.
Yeah.
Jay Hogue, the twice deposed director at Netflix.
Formerly lead independent director, now he's the chair. He gets promoted too.
chair.
Yeah.
Got a promotion. Last year, Hogue was voted out.
By a lot.
It was 79%
Right.
against.
Yeah.
79%.
That's massive.
His resignation was ignored by the board. It was due to attendance failures.
And a history of ignoring shareholder votes.
Well, that we assumed was layered in, right?
Yes.
Like we assumed that was part of it. This year, 2026, the same exact Jay Hogue showed up for all the meetings in 2026, still doesn't listen to investors, still has a 21-year tenure on the Netflix board. This year, 7% against. From 79% against, ignore the resignation, just show up to one more meeting,
Yep.
you get 7% against.
Well, this isn't over because he's kind of flip-flopped his whole career. I would guess that it's going to be bad again, either next year or the year after. It just keeps going, keeps happening with Jay.
I don't understand. Like, Hogue is also on the boards of Peloton and Zillow. These are not
Two
high-performing
dying-
companies.
two
They're
dying internet companies,
These
yeah.
are not high-performing companies.
No.
In fact, at Peloton, the free float data has him as a dictator. They have him with more than 50% of the influence because he's board chair, and he has
Really?
He is the director at the company, the asset managers that have the controlling stake in Peloton.
Which one is that? This is Peloton.
This is Peloton. He is a director at the asset managers, and he has, quote, disclaimed ownership of those shares,
Right.
but he's the de facto in charge of Peloton.
Interesting.
So, but I don't understand what do investors need to be like, okay, we voted you out. You ignored our vote. We voted you out twice. You ignored our vote twice. At what point do investors say, okay, you need to leave? You actually need to leave this. We've asked you to leave twice. You've stayed twice. It's not like things are improving. You keep getting
just get out.
like promotions.
Go.
He's the perfect example of where are investors?
Not to mention that, don't they have two co-CEOs on the board at this point?
Yes.
So do you need a
How many
third
people-
guy who's like that powerful on that board? I mean, how is any actual independent oversight going to go on with like three extreme? And I'm not including Reed Hastings anymore, who's leaving the board or maybe already left. How is anything going to get done with three such powerful figures on that Netflix board?
I have no idea.
And Reed on the speakerphone, by the way. You know he's going to be listening in.
Oh, he's definitely not gone. The other two that are worth mentioning here are A.O. Smith and Air Products. A.O. Smith, Martin Lewis went from 9% against, got 9% against this year from 37% against last year. At Air Products, Dennis Riley, 38% against last year, 1.5 this year. Paul Hilal, 39% last year, 2% this year. Andrew Evans, 29% last year, 0.7% this year.
Correct me if I'm wrong. These two companies ring a bell. Were there other things going on there?
Both were
covered
targeted
A.O.
by
Smith a lot.
activists.
Okay, so you're saying that in 2025 that was activist behavior happening?
So that rolls into the lesson, right?
Go ahead.
Investors, the biggest lesson to take away for vote improvements was investors only care about a thing for 1 year. They have zero memory of whatever happened last year. Jay Hogue, multiple votes voted out, fails attendance, they vote against him. This year, didn't fail attendance. The only thing they care about is you showed up, they vote for you. Last year at A.O. Smith and Air Products, activists caused due diligence to happen at these companies. Both investors and ISS and Glass Lewis decide to actually look at those companies.
Exactly, yeah.
And the due diligence then, like it was with Disney and Nelson Peltz, is totally ignored the following year. You have a director in Andrew Evans who was almost 30% voted against last year, 0.7% against this year. 3 directors still on the board, same exact people, same exact thing. In fact, I looked at the TSR of these companies. At A.O. Smith, they're negative this year. They're not better. They're worse. And there's no improvement at Air Products year over year that's relative to the S&P 500. So not only do we not remember a thing from year to year, as soon as the activist leaves or that the campaign is over, we just vote them in like they're everybody else. There is no world. This might be the number one like pet peeve of this world that we cover. There's no way that a ISS, and it's not just ISS and Glass Lewis that just happen to be the biggest, right? So that's why we're talking about them. But there's no way you could recommend a negative vote against a director one year and the very next year determine that everything's fine. That they're totally fine.
And
Much less...
unless there's been like a drastic board refreshment or change, but that's not ever really happening. Like at Disney, nothing really changed.
I mean, like, I'd be okay with it if returns jumped or like, you know, like they came out with some new strategy that like was highly, you know, received but nothing happened. The lesson is investors are clearly not targeting directors for performance. They are clearly just targeting some sort of check the box. There is no due diligence.
I wonder if part of it, and I don't know how ISS and Glass Lewis work, especially with the data that they show their clients, but I do remember while working at the mothership, as you call it, that the data that we interacted with really was kind of a 1 year snapshot. You didn't really actually get a sense of the history of anything. I wonder if that's part of the problem, is that history is constantly erased at these companies.
Well, the other notable thing I wanted to mention is probably part of the problem too, because these, like I said, these votes are not director centric. They're not person centric, right?
Yeah.
Like they are
company
centric, and they're 1 year, because Bob Vitale, who's on BellRing Brands, Post Holdings, and Energizer, 26% against at BellRing in 2026. That's down from 8% against in 2025. He got 17% against at Energizer, which is up from 25% in 2025. They did like him less last year, and he got 1% against at Post compared to 2% in 2025.
So you're saying that investors don't actually they don't actually think this is the same person.
They don't care about Bob Vitale. They just look at the one company in the 1 year and the thing that's happening, which is so disconnected from reality. These are human beings who are good or bad at jobs. That the likelihood that's
it's a fair point. I'm only interrupting you because there is a stupid story going around the media today about a woman who works at J.P. Morgan who stole a trash can during a Knicks parade or whatever, and she got fired. So, right?
I mean,
so why wouldn't you trace the? So why isn't it important what Bob Vitale does at Post Holdings versus Energizer? Why, you know what I mean? Why isn't he responsible for his performance?
If you apply to any job, you have to go get a background check to make sure you're not a felon. Why on earth at boards do we not have some minimum standard for job performance everywhere you've worked? Mm-hmm. Like if you stink or investors hated you in one place, why do we not even do that as a basic background check? Like, what's the first question you should ask as part of, if you're a nom-committee chair, is what's the percentage votes against you've ever, like the maximum votes against you've ever gotten, and why? Because
Right.
You're hiring a person. And if you're an investor and you're voting against them in one place and for them in another place, and you're voting against them in that place because an activist said you suck.
It is weird
right?
when
Like,
you think about it. Yeah.
It's really weird to think that like Paul Hilal got 39% against at Air Products. If Paul Hilal is on another board and gets 1% against at that other board, are you not connecting the fact that that's the same human being
No,
and an
they're
activist said you suck in this place, but you're like, they're just not,
They're definitely not.
there's no activists at the other? That's crazy to me. So, those are my big lessons for the year in voting.
I think what you're saying is that if Paul Hilal steals a trash can like at A.O. Smith, he should also get fired from Air Products, right?
That would be what I assume. But
Well, it's not. But it doesn't matter if you don't show up to your job. But if you steal a trash can, that's important, right? Stealing a trash can.
that's where I
In the
draw the
corporate
line.
world, that's the line.
That's the line.
Imagine stealing a trash. Why would you want a trash can anyway? It's disgusting.
What are you going to do with the trash can? Where are you going to put that?
You're going to lose your job is what you're going to do. At least at Jamie's JP Morgan, you're going to lose your job. That's the Proxy Countdown for the week of June 26, 2026. Join us in a few weeks when we jump back into the alternative democracy pool. Forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey directors, scandalous CEO pay ratios, and wayward band-aids, trash cans? I don't know.